the NFC West division winners last year. We now have the overview for the Arizona Cardinals under Ken Whisenhunt. So Phillip Rivers has finally found a home. It wasn't Tennessee. It wasn't the replacement in Minnesota. It was the Arizona Cardinals. So Rivers had a great year last year. I expect the same this year. Chad Henne, who was drafted to be the potential starter here in 2008, he was a third-round pick. Never really, when he had an opportunity, he did not play well. And so Whisenhunt brought in Rivers mid-season, and he was able, mid-season I think 2 years ago, because last year was I think Rivers' first full season as a starter, where he wasn't in a QB battle and he wasn't coming in mid-year. There is Donald Brown, who was the second-round pick in last year's draft in 2009. They had Darren Sproles from the Eagles. And then for wide receiver, their main reason they're so successful is Calvin Johnson Jr., one of the leading receivers last year. They have Troy Williamson, who was very good for the Lions, and he was a top receiver for Brody Croyle. He came over last year, and Williamson did a great job being the opposite receiver of Johnson. It was astounding because the Cardinals had Andre Johnson and Calvin Johnson Jr., both of those receivers, and for whatever reason, Kurt Warner, Chad Henne, any quarterback they had just was not able to get them the ball. And they got them the ball, but they kept losing games. So I got rid of Andre Johnson, who did win the Super Bowl with the Patriots. But the year I got rid of Andre Johnson, the Cardinals went 11-6. So I guess stacking the receivers wasn't the right strategy. And we see they do bring in Santana Moss, who was with the San Francisco 49ers. There's Stevie Johnson, who I believe was the late round pick. One of these, or maybe, let me double check here. I don't remember when I got Steve Johnson. I might have signed him off of a practice squad probably. But they have some decent receivers, even though they're not really highly overall. But they still have some solid contributors there in addition to Calvin Johnson. Then there, of course, is Andre Smith, their first-round pick last year at left tackle. Chester Pitts. Nick Mangold, their 2006 first-round pick and the 13th overall selection. You can see the superstar dev. Logan Mankins, who is also a first-round pick back in 2005. X-Factor guard. Then Tony Ugo. So we'll see how that turns out. He might be the weak link there on the O-line. They drafted Ed Dixon this year with the 5th overall pick in the second round. So we'll see how that shapes up. I did draft Roger Saffold with the 32nd overall pick. That was the pick they got for Andre Johnson. So Saffold is only a 63 overall. So I don't know if I'll actually start him at right tackle, because that's one thing I considered. Like if Ugo, or if the season's not going well, maybe to give Saffold the experience. But based on Madden, he should never start. But based on reality, he's the first-round pick, supposed to be the incoming offensive tackle for the Arizona Cardinals. Now, this team is very much a pass-focused offense. Donald Brown is not, doesn't normally run for 1,000 yards. I forget what he had last year, but it was probably around 700. But as you can see, Darren Sproles is there because he's a receiving back. So this team is all about the pass. Then on defense, there's Tyson Alualu, who was their first-round pick this year, or the 30th overall selection. As you can see, he's just going to be mediocre, but there's Randy Starks behind him. They did sign Richard Seymour from the Patriots, because the Patriots ain't got no money. So we have Seymour over there with the right end, the best defensive lineman, free agent, other than maybe Albert Hainsworth. They also have Corey Redding from a long time ago. Let's see, when was Redding drafted? That was 2003. He was the third round, 7th overall pick. A solid contributor there, just not more than a normal dev. They have Ahmad Carroll, Terrell Brown. I think that's Tramon Williams, I believe. Let me double. There's Greg Toller. There was a draft pick last year. Let me see. Yeah, not sure. It might be I think it's Tramon Williams. I think it was signed this offseason. And then for the linebackers, they have Navarro Bowman, which is a very great addition for them. He's going to be good, a good potential solid linebacker for many years to come. Arnaud, DOC at middle linebackers, Justin Tuck, who's been good for them. And then there's Adrian Wilson at strong safety. They have Quentin Mickle at free safety. Adrian Wilson has been very solid for their defense. Much better in the linebacking core. Richard Seymour does give them a good run stopper in that front part of their front seven. And then their punter, Paulescu and Dan Carpenter, round up their special teams. So hope you enjoyed this overview of the Arizona Cardinals. Let me know if you think they have a chance now at the Super Bowl. They played in the NFC Championship game, only losing to the Minnesota Vikings and Brett Favre. Will this be the year they make it to the Super Bowl, and can they win their first Super Bowl in franchise history?